Good evening and welcome back to the Ask Dr. Renee show here at blackdoctor.org. Now, I'm sure you've been watching blackdoctor.org for a long time, so you already know. First thing I want you to do is share the broadcast because inevitably there is something that will go on in this conversation that will be beneficial to, if not you, someone you know and love. So please share, no matter where you're watching, make sure you share the broadcast because sharing is caring. And then, we always want you to type in the chat and let us know where you are watching from because we love to see how wide are we getting our messaging out. So please type in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. And lastly, if you have questions, type them in the chat and we will try to address them. Or after the broadcast, I or maybe our guest will follow up with you if you have certain questions. But you are in for a treat. This is going to be amazing information, and we've been talking a lot about it here at blackdoctor.org, so I'm really excited to have this conversation. And let me bring on my guest. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Fabulous. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So today, you guys, we have Omar Barnett. He is the CEO of Perspective Research. So he's going to tell us all about Perspective Research. And we're going to then talk a little more about exactly what he does there and stuff. But first, just tell us about Perspective Research.
Sure. Perspective Research is a leading research company in the city of Rancho Cucamonga, founded back in 2014, and we've been steadily growing since then. We're multi-therapeutic. Currently, the only thing that we do not do research in is oncology, which we're steadily working our way up to that ladder.
So when you say therapeutic, so what exactly are you guys, do you have doctors there, nurses there? What exactly are you guys doing?
We have everything, especially for the research studies. I do networking every day. So we have from oncology, ophthalmology, internal medicine, family medicine. So on my staff itself, we have approximately about 10 staff members, and we steadily growing. And we have doctors that oversee each of our clinical research projects. We do studies from knee pain, back pain, ulcer colitis, diabetes, obesity, depression, schizophrenia, just to name a few. So if you could think of the diagnosis, I've probably worked on it. If not, I'm getting there.
Awesome. So I have to ask, how did you get into this space? Because I know you're not a scientist, are you?
No, I am not. I love the field.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So how did you get into this? Because it's so fascinating when I hear about business people who get into science, much like the CEO of blackdoctor.org, who is not a scientist either, but every day through his, through the website, through the programming, he is helping to, change lives and make our community healthier, right? So how did you get into this?
That is an awesome question. I would say by the grace of God, to be honest. When I first moved over here to the States, obviously I'm from Jamaica, I'm Jamaican. And I was 20 years old and I signed up with a temp agency. Would you know that the temp agency and got me into this medical research center? Granted, I did not know anything about medical research. However, from that point, I don't know, I just fell in love with it. You could say I worked my way from the bottom to the top. So you name something, I probably know it, so to speak. So that's what I say. Just anyone ask me that question, I always say it's by the grace of God because it's something that is dear to me. So I just fell into what I should be doing.
That's awesome. That is awesome. It's a calling. And then what we've talked about so much, especially in COVID, we talked about how important clinical trials are to Black and brown people.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, in case no one knew, most of the times when they do a clinical trial, the participants are white males, middle-aged, and honestly, it's already been proven. There are medications currently on the market that do not work the same in Black people. That's just, I mean, I can, right off the top of my head, there's a hypertension drug that does not work well in Black people because it was never tested on us. So they didn't even realize this problem till after it came out on the market. So that is why clinical trials are clearly very important to our community. And so I know that that is very important to you as well, to make certain that people, of all races and ethnicities are represented, right?
Um, Actually, you're absolutely right. And, I'll touch a little bit on the COVID vaccine because, there was a study done by Harvard that showed that I think maybe say 18 or less percent of ethnic participants were in the study. So you could imagine that goes from African American, Latin to Hispanic, Asian. So it just shows the lack of diversity. However, I do see the FDA kind of going back to or kind of implementing a new way of doing clinical research where now I consider pharmaceuticals there. Now they're looking for research companies that could, facilitate that need for ethnic diversity, especially in sites, sites like my center right now. But I'm African American, so it makes it a little easier for them to, recruit and to locate
Yes.
those type of personnel.
Yeah, and I know it's not written in stone yet, but the FDA is slowly moving towards making it
Yes.
kind of a requirement for pharmaceutical companies to have to do some sort of diversity, as some sort of diversity recruitment when they
Yes.
do try to get people for clinical trials. So like you said, your business would be a perfect place to recruit people. And in case people have not heard me talk about it, blackdoctor.org, we have clinical trials as well, that we're trying. We have the community here, and so we're trying to make certain that we are a part of it. And I think people, and I'm sure you can speak to this, what do people think when you you say, well, why don't you try this clinical trial, or why don't you look into this? What do they like? People, Black people always are skeptical, especially when it comes to medical things, and I mean rightfully so. But we're trying to get away from Henrietta Lacks, and of course the Tuskegee. We're trying to get away from that. But what do they say to you when you ask them? What do you think about trying this?
Yeah, it's one of the things that myself and my wife were trying to overcome is this thing of, I hate to say the word, doing a clinical study, the skinny pig error type of thing, when it's not. This is how you better your current medication regimen and even future regimen to better your family, siblings, and it's hard to overcome it because it's been going on for so many years. But I could say that one thing the COVID has taught us was a little more education on how beneficial research is, because on the lockdown, everyone and anyone needed to get the COVID vaccine, and obviously that was done via the research by Moderna and Pfizer. So it kind of shows the efficacy, which would be more beneficial for this participant or not for this person. But it's really education that we need to get into our communities, especially Black and brown. There's just a lack of education as far as medical research and better medication for themselves and their family.
Yes, definitely. And I think that's why, here at Black Doctor, we're working with, the faith-based community. We're working with, sororities and fraternities, just any large groups of, Black people, so that we can help to get that education and the messaging across. We've had Dr. Fauci here, that Dr. Fauci was here and talked about, this is very good. Not to mention Dr. Kazikia, is that her name? I feel so bad. Now I can't remember. But the wonderful young woman that was very instrumental in she was in the Pfizer, I think, vaccine, right? And so, being she was a Black woman, it was, all the things that we need to make certain that we're very well informed. Of course, we were telling people, please go get vaccinated. And it was a running joke. They had vaccines, a plethora of vaccines, basically in the hood, because we were so afraid to get them. But people were going there to get them because they knew that they were untouched. So, right. So I was like, so if that doesn't tell you that you need to go on and get vaccinated, I'm not sure what would, And so,
so honestly, as soon as the vaccine came out, well, I've done some Pfizer, so okay, Pfizer, I'm right in the line.
Right, and and actually, I've had mine's are all been Moderna, but you do, but I think that education, you're right, is the key, and making sure that people understand what you're talking about, which is what I love about blackdoctor.org, is that we bring it down so that everyone can understand. We're not speaking, doctor talk and, science. We are like, this is the meat and potatoes, it's this, and this is what happens. And unfortunately, I think that so many people in our community were touched by so many people that died from COVID that I think that was a rude awakening, because it was not just older people, it was across the board, young, old, it didn't matter, men, women. So I think that unfortunately, that had to happen for a lot of people to say, hey, wait a minute, maybe I need to go and get that vaccine, which is unfortunate. But so what are some of the current studies that you're looking at right now that you're trying to recruit for?
So currently we have depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, asthma, ulcerative colitis, and currently we have a few more in line for PTSD, just in a few. And I'm always recruiting. Actually, I'm always applying for new studies on a daily basis. So, and myself, I love to network with other doctors to see if they would like to participate or get into the field of research itself. Because even with companies like mine, we cannot do it by ourselves. So it's really just, number one, educating the patient themselves, and also doctors, because some doctors can be not as comprehensive as far as to getting their patients into a research project. I don't know why, but that's just kind of the thing that I see.
I think it's probably that they don't necessarily know about what studies are out there. I mean, needless to say, they're extremely busy. So maybe they don't know what studies are out there to tell the patient, that this might be something. And I also heard something recently. It is better for you to get into a clinical trial before you get sick than to wait and let that be the last resort before, unfortunately you're about to die or something. So, and I think that I took that to heart, but I've personally participated in clinical trials with asthma, and I've had asthma my whole life. And it was just, I found out about a study and was like, sure. And I participated, and I've done all sorts of studies. I did one study where they were looking at my lungs, and I had to go to sleep, and they stuck a tube down my throat, and everyone's like, "You're gonna volunteer for that?" And I was like, I was sedated. It wasn't, I woke up, I was fine. I didn't feel, I was in pain. So I said, that's fine. And then I also did another one, and this one was rough though. I did one where they did the allergy testing, which I already know that I'm allergic to a lot of things, environmental and food. And so, of course, they pricked me, and then I couldn't scratch for an amount of time. And oh my God, I thought I was going to die. I was like, what was I thinking to try to do this? I know I'm allergic to everything that they just stuck in there, and I survived, but I was like, oh my God, that was a lot. But I tell people, one, they compensate you for it. So, they paid for my parking and they gave me some money. And then one of the studies was this test. Asthma attacks usually happen at night. And so they did a test. They wanted to see your sleeping patterns. And so they did it with a Fitbit. And at the end of the study, we got to keep the Fitbits. And actually, that is the reason why I wear a Fitbit to this day. This was probably 15 years ago. So I've had every iteration of Fitbits up until now because of that one study. I had not purchased a Fitbit before that, wasn't going to, but because they gave me that one, I just got on the train and have been on it since. But But my whole thing is, I think, because I know that more than likely when I have children, they will have asthma just because it runs in my family. But if they can eliminate having to spend as much time as I did in the hospital, then I know that thankfully I did something to help with that. So yeah, that's my whole thing.
That's I love that story, and that's a testament to how beneficial medical research is. Because just as you said, we really have to educate the masses. When you go do a medical research, you're getting free advanced medication,
Yep.
free physical, free labs, full workup.
Honestly, it's a free doctor's appointment. Think about it. More than likely, you're going to see
Exactly.
a doctor, and that's extra doctor time that you know you don't have to pay for, and your insurance doesn't either.
And the funniest thing is that if you put all these procedures that you participate in a clinical research study, you know how much that would cost you outside of the
Oh,
study. It's
like
crazy to think
the
of the
test that
price.
I had with the lungs. I
Yeah.
can't even imagine. Like I said, I was put to sleep, so an anesthesiologist was hired. You know, what I mean? Like the pulmonologist was there. I mean, that was a lot of people that you're right would be very costly.
Yeah. And then any findings, you could always take it to your doctor and say, hey, you know what? They found this in the study.
Exactly the
We
next
need
thing
to
I was
fix
going
it.
to say. You can
Yeah.
easily ask them, can I have a copy of whatever? And you
Yeah.
can take it right to your doctor and show them. Because the other thing, I also had a lot of pulmonary function tests. Anyone
Uh-huh.
with asthma knows you blow into the machine and they're testing your lung capacity.
Uh-huh.
And that's something that, costs a lot of money with the insurance company. I think they
Yeah.
pay for one or two a year, right? But
Yeah.
I had extra ones because I was doing the study and taking whatever the study meds were. I kept having them. They were like, here, and they printed it out for me, and I took it to my doctor, or I faxed it to him. So these are just things that we added to my chart, and he was like, oh, I see you're improving or not. And then also I was testing out drugs that he hadn't prescribed, so then he could see if maybe I need to be switched over to this. It's just, I mean, and plus, like I said, I was healthy as a horse. I was fine. So this was really, a great time for me to go because I was fine and we could see if this was helping and making my lung capacity better or was it making it worse? We could see. And I did one test that they trying to provoke you to start wheezing and it worked. I had the fifth dosage. I was over there like, like please, okay, truce, like we're done. And then I tell everyone I stayed away from going to things because I didn't want to be COVID tested. And they're like, what? It's no big deal. I go, no, I
Uh-huh.
do well with things in my nose. I remember one of the studies, they had to stick something in my nose. I literally took the girl's hand and took it out. Like, I was like, and I was so embarrassed because, I was me. I was a doctor
Yeah.
at times. I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my God, I am so sorry. But I felt like you were touching my brain. And I just was like, oh my God, it hurt.
Wow, that's
I
crazy.
said, I'll do better. Okay, try again. Because
Yeah.
she didn't get what she needed. But yeah, I think that it's amazing how much information you can get for free
Yes.
because you participated and helped to either, help yourself or the next person. You never know.
Yep, you never know. It's so funny. The thing I love is when a patient is in a study and the medication is working for them so well. They like to, oh, thank you so much. Thank you for putting me in the study. I've done so many studies. I have patients that I don't ever want to get out of this study because it just works for them so well. And instead of you going to your doctor and trying all these medications, you know exactly what works for you.
Right.
That's the beauty of it. you know.
Yeah.
And again, it's all free, and you get compensated for your time for participating. You help us to better yourself. It all helps. We're all helping each other.
Right. Exactly. And it's amazing, especially like I said, I've had asthma my whole life, to see where even asthma has gone from when I was younger to where it is now. There's so many different drugs on the market, so much better treatments on the market, and it's all because of research and studies like this.
Oh yeah, actually I've seen studies, come across my desk. Obviously I can't do them, but
Right.
I was like, oh, I wish I could. you know, it, it's really getting the fear out of everyone's mind. There's that fear I think it's probably instilled from years of miseducation.
Right.
And it takes, a person like yourself to let a massive no, you have to do this. It's something you can do. If someone does have insurance, guess what? Research study, you don't need insurance.
You don't need insurance.
Okay?
No.
You've seen a doctor for anything. Anything happened in the study, you've seen a doctor.
Yep.
So it's a win-win. I don't see any negative in it.
Right. Right. And I, with the asthma study, because they were giving me, new drugs and taking me off of what I usually take, they gave me prednisone, which is what usually will break my asthma attacks. And so just in case you get sick, and I mean, free bottle. I mean, a bottle of several. I was like, oh my goodness. Oh, okay. And they said, this is, if something happens, call us first.
Yeah.
But we wanted to make sure you have these just in case. And I was like, oh, okay, great. Thank you. So you're right. It's just, it's so beneficial. And I understand people are scared, but it's really beneficial if you just try, just check and try and see. You never know.
Yeah, it's really just to get in a better publicity as far as when it comes to medical research. That's what we're all about. But as you said, right now, your medication is covered while you're in the study.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's nothing out your pocket but a better education on your health. That's it. Better education on health. That's what you're going in there for.
Yeah. And, honestly, because you're in a study, I love all of my colleagues, but I completely understand. I'm a patient myself. The doctors just have a lot of patients and not a lot of time. Whereas when you're in a study, they take their time to explain everything to you. I mean, first of all, those the consent forms are usually so long, it's just ridiculous. Yes. And they're going to make sure you understand every single aspect. So they take their time to explain it to you and make certain that you understand. If you have any questions about your condition, now is the time. You can ask this person and they'll explain it to you and they'll take their time. So it's just, there's so many benefits that, the benefits so much outweigh, obviously sometimes it's a study with placebo and maybe you don't get the drug, it's a blind study. Usually you don't know, but there are so many benefits. And usually once you get in the system, they'll keep calling you back.
Yeah.
Provided you do what you're supposed to do. Because of course, some medicines, you have to take them at a certain time and you have to record whatever. And so as long as you do your part, they would love to have you back because now you're familiar with what has to, what goes on. So, yeah.
And that's another thing is something I practice and I teach my staff as well. Bond with your patient. This is something they don't really get in a general practice because, again, you said they've seen patients, but in the research, it's one-on-one. So they could be on the side an hour or two, but get to know them. They're a volunteer, they're helping us, we're helping them. Ask how their day is going. How the study, how's the week.
Yeah.
Bonding with the patient actually helps them fulfill the requirement of the study because as you said they're constantly with this long and the study requirements with this, but guess what? Once a patient is aware step by step, every time they come in, go through their prior labs and everything, be with them, bond with them. Because the more they feel that connection, the more they help you, which in turn, guess what? Help the study itself.
Yeah. I did a fibroid study and it was over a long period of time, like several years. And I did not have fibroids, but they needed people with fibroids and without. And so I would, every few months I would come in and, I would chat with them. And then one of the young ladies that worked there, she was thinking about going into medicine. So I would check on her and stuff. And so, we truly did bond. It was great, So when you said that, I thought about that. And it's wonderful that you can bond with the patients. And it's even better, like I said, for the patient, you have someone you can trust and ask them the questions that maybe your doctor didn't have a chance to answer.
Oh, yeah. And
they'll explain to you, even if it's not a study, the study, they'll explain to you, these are how the drugs work. Because sometimes that's something that the pharmacist didn't explain or your doctor didn't have time to explain. But this is so important. So important. So there's lots of clinics like yours across the country, because I can think there's a few in Chicago. But how many, like, is there a bunch in your area, or are you like the only one?
Well, there's few centers around my area, but I'm the only one in Rancho Cucamonga. Our goal
Okay.
is to grow to 10 facilities by 2027.
Love it.
So
Love it.
yeah, I'm always looking to expand. That's why reaching out to other doctors that may be looking to get into medical research. I'm right here to
Yes.
help them,
We'll put
assist
his
them, guide
information
them.
in the chat. I mean, in the post. Well, I'll make sure I put your information, because if there are any physicians that would like to reach out, definitely. Any patients, doctors, we're the ticker right now is his website. So if you are a patient in that area, go to his website and see if there's any trials. And don't forget to look at the trials on the blackdoctor.org page and just see, maybe there's something there that you qualify for. And then you have to go through a process. Of course, they have, questions they'll have to ask you to see if you do actually qualify. But you got to start somewhere. So start. Now, do you have a place in Jamaica too, or no?
It's already put in the universe, so the universe knows we have it. We just haven't opened it yet.
I believe it. I'm Antiguan, so you can come on over to Antigua and put a spot there too.
Hey, there's no stopping me, right?
Right. Exactly.
I'll be right over there.
Exactly. But I just love, I love that you as a Black man did this, because obviously I don't know any others that are run by a Black person, to be honest with you. And like I said, I can think of a few off the top of my head. So I think that's wonderful. Because of course here at blackdoctor.org, we always like to support our own. But I think that not only are you a Black business person, but the fact that you're in this field is amazing. Because like you said, you as a Black person can speak to other Black people and say, hey, come on, check this out, try, I know that, you've been struggling with whatever, try this trial and see, maybe you can figure out a different way to treat it. So I think, because I know in my past job, I was the face, I was the one talking to people about donating their baby's cord blood. And as Black people, it is in desperate need. And so it was good that I was the one saying it, because they were like, oh, okay, so, you think this is a good idea? And then I was like, oh, absolutely, So I think that it's great that it's you that are, able to do that, because, our people don't necessarily trust everyone. And so we're more likely to trust somebody that looks like us. So I think it's great that it's you doing it. And I mean, this is such important work, and especially now, because there's so many things happening so quickly that are, they're finding new, just as a matter of fact, there's another episode that I've done recently about the HIV vaccine. Who knew how, so the fact that that's on the forefront. And then, all these drugs they have now that can prevent you from getting HIV. That was nothing but a clinical trial, everyone. That was a clinical trial.
Back a few years ago.
Lots of studies, and they figured out, these drugs. And so the only way for us all to get better and treat, and live longer is to participate in clinical trials, so that we can make certain that we are represented. Because if they don't represent us, then we can never guarantee that the drug is actually safe for us to take.
Yes. Another thing, everyone should know that all research studies are FDA approved for the research studies. So, they all go through a different committee before it even comes on to
Yeah. You have to. And it's that's why that consent form is so thick. Your audio. Something happened to your audio. We can barely hear you. It's still faint.
Okay, how about now?
Yes, okay, we're good. But yeah, so that's why those consents are so thick, because it has went through so many different processes and, people reviewing and stuff, because these aren't experimental. These are FDA approved. They have gotten past the rats and everything, that they're okay to go in humans now. So I think that everyone should go visit your website and check it out, and see if there's something, if they're in your area, check it out. And if you're not in his area, go to clinical trials, the tab, and the blackdoctor.org page, and see if there's something there that you qualify for. But I greatly appreciate your time. And if there's anything else that you want to share with us, let me know.
I said, go to my website. We're always here to network. This is a family atmosphere. Research is a family community. Be a part of the community. Help us better our patients, family, friends. So you name it, doctors, nurses. We're all here for you.
Thank you so much for your time this evening, Omar, and good luck. I know you don't need it. Much success to you, because I know that you will have the 10 offices, especially because I know your wife so well and for so many years now. So I know.
Oh yeah, and I have to thank my wife, Elvira Guzman, for doing this for me, because we're an advocate of medical research.
Yes.
We spread it in our community. So now, thanks to you, we can bring it to the masses as well.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And so thank you, Elvira, because this is such important information. I'm so glad that we were able to get this time. And I want everyone that's in the Rancho Cucamonga area to please go to his website, check it out. And if you are a physician, if you're a hospital, there's somebody that can help you with your recruitment. And so thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.